you just throw to me for a cold open, Joe? Are we live? I don't want to do a fucking cold open. No cold open today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tilt Space, a show we do that I never want to actually end up doing once it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm here with Michael Leone and Joe Holka. Collectively, we are sweating a min cash that probably won't get there. But Leone, there is good news. There is good news. Michael Leone right now, after that Jonathan Taylor touchdown, just qualified for, what is it, Mike, the FFWC?
I'm in the top 16 for the DraftKings live final.
Oh,
It's
man.
still there's a lot that could still happen because I don't have Davante Adams and he's pretty chalky, so that's pretty terrifying. But I also have a lot of PMR left.
So you are
Yeah.
top 9 roughly, a 16 cash, like a ticket, right? In this,
Yeah, I'm in ninth, but the scores are like tight. Where 16th is only 6 points behind. I could really go for a Jalen Hurts rushing bonus, but it is the FFWC. First through 16th in the Mega Q get a ticket to the FFWC. Played this instead of the Thunderdome this week, and I don't have this in a lot elsewhere, so it would really be like quite the knife turn if I bubbled this.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a super sick team. I think one of the funny things in looking at it is this morning when Fournette was ruled out, I started wondering, like, shit, should I pivot some of my Ronald Jones to JT? You ended up just playing both of them here, and that seemed to work out pretty well, getting off of the Washington chalk.
This was actually I had this team set before the Fournette news and decided to just keep it. I did fool around with the Taylor spot a little bit, but ended up keeping it. I swapped because I was worried, in such a top heavy thing, I didn't, I was behind with the Henry stuff and Kelsey getting there. And I swapped for, and then also with Crowder active, I was a little concerned on Barrios. So I swapped Davante Adams and Barrios to Metcalf and Perriman, which in retrospect seems bad because Perriman, I thought was going to be more like 15%. And I also thought Davante was going to be more like 50%. And Davante ends up 33%. So I didn't even end up getting an ownership edge. So that, is kind of painful. And Metcalf is now resting this whole fourth quarter, whereas, you've got Davante Adams in a tight game with the whole fourth quarter left to go.
So we'll keep tabs on Leone's queue here. He's looking pretty solid right now. Let's talk about our lineup in the $1,500 game changer. I thought we were going to have a sweat here today, boys. We can talk about this lineup. Right now, we are, what place are we even in?
33rd.
33rd. So cashing is 27th place, except basically all of our guys are sitting right now. What do we need? We need the engine, Braxton Berrios, to get some garbage time. We need Davante Adams. Davante Adams hasn't done anything since the first half.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about this team. We can talk about the late swap that we then late swapped back out of. We late swapped a late swap here. So heading into this was the lineup we had. And all we had going early was Mike Davis, Ronald Jones, and KJ Hamler. So we didn't have Derrick Henry. So the first thing we were thinking was like, all right, we need to swap. Davante Adams is going to be 55, 60% owned in this contest. But then we get these Mike Davis touchdown at the end, KJ Hamler second touchdown. And we had pivoted to an Ayuk McLaurin 2v2 off of Barrios and Metcalf, Adams. And did I say that right? And then we decided to switch back to it and let it hold. Did I describe it right? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, we swapped from Barrios and Adams to McLaurin and Ayuk, and then we swapped back from Ayuk and McLaurin to Barrios and Adams because, as Pete said, Hamler and Mike Davis both scoring at the end took them from okay to really good plays at pretty low ownership, and we felt like even though we didn't have Henry or Kelsey at that point, going through the top teams, it looked pretty good. And kudos to Peter because he downloaded the CSV and took a look at kind of what the construction of some of those teams were. And we kind of realized the teams that had Henry that were really high up didn't have Adams. And some of the other teams that had room for Adams kind of had some busts along with it with their Henry stuff.
Yeah, so this was a tough spot. Ultimately, I feel good about it. We wanted to attack the Jets here, and Joe, those field goal misses there that allowed this game to get away with the game script. I mean, we ran pretty well other than the one Carson TD on Russ throwing in the red zone, but the Jets just cannot keep any of these games close.
Man, what was going on with kickers in general today? I feel like I saw more missed extra points, and just I remember we were watching part of the Vikings game, and just like he missed what 2 or 3 extra points, and then missed 2 field goals as well, and then they lose by 12 points or whatever it was, or they were down by 10 roughly towards the end of the game. So weird overall. I'll say this though, like I felt like I had a pretty good plan for the teams that didn't have Derrick Henry. If he would have scored like 30, 35, but like he drops this bomb on us, and there were some teams that didn't have Derrick Henry that didn't really have like a failure or anything like that. I had some Montgomery teams, had some teams that still like were mostly wide open with some of like the really heavy stacks later on with either Russ or Aaron Rodgers. So I didn't really know what to do with certain swaps, and sometimes I feel like I have a pretty good plan going into it. I was kind of paralyzed in some ways for 2 reasons, because he drops a 40 bomb, but also he was like 20% in some of the contests that I was in. I know he was a little bit higher in some of the lower stakes stuff. So did you feel that way also, Leone? Like I missed on ownership for sure at 20%. Derrick Henry, I thought he'd be a little bit chalkier, but I also don't know if I had the best plan for the 40 bomb, I guess.
Yeah, I felt like I had the plan, but then when he was, 20% and not 40%, it sort of altered the plan a little bit. And then same thing with Kelsey, he was 20% and good. And I don't know, it was tough. And the thing that Peter was pointing out to me was, yeah, Adams is going to be chalky, but do the teams that have Henry have Adams? Because you might need an Adams type ceiling to catch Henry. And then it's like, well, if teams have Henry and Adams, that doesn't do you any good. But if they don't, then you kind of just want that ceiling in there to catch Henry. So it did become more difficult because the ownership wasn't where I thought. Heading into the slate, I thought if he's 40% owned, it's going to be a clear swap for me. And yeah, so it was challenging. I got ownership kind of wrong in a lot of spots as far as where it kind of got juiced up and where it didn't. It ended up spread out a lot more in the type of contest we play, more so than it usually does.
Ed in the chat was asking about us playing Barrios despite Crowder being active. And this was something we wrestled with for a while. And that was really factoring into the late swap decision because we needed Barrios to be able to play Devontae Adams. Basically reading the tweets, talking with everyone we trusted, it did seem like Crowder was going to be playing in a very limited capacity. There was some rumors from the beat reporters that he was going to be just, an emergency option. It seemed to make sense based on the fact that he didn't practice on Friday, that there was no need to rush him back. So we definitely factored it in. We knew there was risk to Barrios not necessarily getting all of the snaps he would if Crowder was out. But ultimately, when our Hamler and Mike Davis touchdowns at the end kind of set us up, we decided to stick with our build because I would say, guys, if we didn't get those 2 late TDs, I mean, we're almost always pivoting to that Ayuk Terry McLaurin combo there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had pivoted to it, and we had a tough time pivoting back because of the Crowder stuff. And we were like, man, if Crowder was out, this would be easy. We were sort of happy that it would keep the Barrios ownership down. And if there was a chance that, Rich Simony for the New York Jets, he's a beat writer, he suggested there's a chance that Crowder was emergency active. And like, if that plays out, you've got a guy that should be chalk who's not chalk, and then you still get Adams. So, we were hopeful of that, but it didn't work out. Looks like Big Bob Tunyon just scored a touchdown.
Leone, we should have put your Q team in the game changer. We'd be sitting here in 3rd place trying to, we'd have a pretty good chance at 2nd with that team.
Yeah, the Jalen Hurts flag plant for me. So far, the thesis of the Jalen Hurts play is coming through. I've got him as well. So I'm happy to see that he's 4 yards away from the rushing bonus, which would be really nice and kind of help solidify me in this queue.
Man,
Yeah.
this quarterback slate, guys. Look at this. We got Tua, Aaron Rodgers obviously gets there, but then like Drew Lock, Mitchell Trubisky, and Mahomes is up there. I guess it's come back a little bit. The last time I looked at this, it was literally like no Russ up there, no Aaron Rodgers up there, obviously early, but like Dalton and all these guys. It was a weird quarterback slate overall, but I guess now Aaron Rodgers is getting there. So interesting.
Yeah, this one, it's just like, this one felt so good because I don't know, this lineup, I felt good about the ownerships. I think one thing we saw here was we kind of projected DK Metcalf, I think, in this contest to be more in the 10 to 15%. I think his 20% ownership makes sense in that I assume Devontae Adams was up at 50, 55%, and a lot of people pivoted down to Metcalf, pivoted to Keenan Allen once they realized they were buried. But like outside of that, I mean, KJ Hamler at 2.8%, that was a play Mike was pushing us on with the min price receivers. We kept the faith with Mike Davis, who ended up being a difference maker. Yeah, I mean, we have been kind of stubborn all year with Mike Davis here. And yeah, we've gotten burned a couple weeks, but on the whole, the Mike Davis experience has been pretty good to us.
Man.
Yeah, he won us. I think he was on the team that we won with early. Whether it was, I don't remember if it was the team we won the 1500 in, or if it was the team that we won. You came in second the week before in the juke that let us play in that 1500 contest. But JT is just crushing for me right now, which is helping build a nice lead, which is nice.
Was that when he was really cheap? Like he was like 5K or so for like 2 or 3 weeks in a row or something like that?
Yeah.
It was the first week, and it was some things happened. I think it was like Mega JT Chalk week, maybe. There were some things that happened, and he ended up like 5% owned the first week CMC was out in our contest.
Yeah.
Leone, another one that, I mean, it's in your team in the queue right now that you kind of were discussing with us was Irv Smith at 3,100, like coming back from injury, obviously like only 4 catches, but did get in the end zone. You were kind of talking up like an Irv Smith, Ronald Jones mini stack, which is kind of what you went with here, obviously. We didn't end up with that on any teams. We definitely built that at some point in one of our rosters, didn't we?
Yeah, we ended up. We didn't have Irv.
Oh, okay.
We ended up not playing Irv. We went some other. We had Hollister on the correlation for the Russ double stack, which I think made sense. He was sub 1% owned, so I liked that. We had a Komet team, and then we had like an Akins Mooney mini. So I think we played her. I wasn't like crazy on Irv. Levitan's take was, yeah, he's probably gonna be limited, but he can't be limited that much if it's just him and Tyler Conklin, because that's who Rudolph was out. Brandon Dillon was out. I don't believe they called up a third tight end, but definitely ran a little bit pure on the, it's not like he played a ton. He just was 4 for 60 and a tutty.
Did you feel like this team was different enough because of Hurts to play something like the Cowboys defense at 27%? Like obviously, even if you thought it was going to be less than that for the Cowboys, like they were pretty clearly going to be one of the chalkier options, but you have like some very low owned guys in here too. So I assume you just thought it was okay, right?
Yeah, I felt I was going to be really different. I thought I was going to be even more different than I was. Again, I made this team before the Fournette news, so I don't know how much that pumped up Rojo or if he was already up there. I do think, even looking back on it, part of the reason you play Hurts is you can jam in these studs. If you had known Devontae low 30s, Henry low 20s, you could have almost built the chalk guys with Jalen Hurts, which I think is what Andrew Wiggins, who's 7th in this queue, sort of did. He had an Adams Henry team with Hurts that was a little bit chalkier. So I feel like it's been tough the last few weeks. Some of the ownership, last week we were kicking ourselves a little bit for not seeing the tea leaves on Waller some more. And Metcalf was mega low owned last week. And then this week I thought I followed the tea leaves right. And, even Keenan, who I really liked, ends up at 20%. And I don't know if a lot of that swap, but 20% Keenan versus 33% Devontae, I probably play that a little differently if I know, where the ownership sit.
Yeah, the one I felt really good about today, and we didn't get him into this lineup, but he was in one of our juke lineups, was Robbie Anderson, who was one of those guys earlier in the week, projected super well without DJ Moore at his price tag. He was like in a ton of optimals. Early ownership was on him, and he ended up just getting kind of lost in the shuffle again, which is another one of those things that I feel like I've learned a lot this year about how kind of ownership changes and then how it shifts things around with people getting on different types of builds that weren't funneling people to a mid-price wide receiver. So Robbie ends up coming, in the SPY sub 10%. I think we got him sub 10% in the juke. So that one I feel pretty good about too, that we ended up on him in a spot.
That was the lineup where we got Dalvin at 2.3%.
Yeah.
Obviously, like 9,400, tough price tag there, but I think we'll take that ceiling at 2% every time, right? That was much lower than I thought it would be.
Yeah, that also a really good swap. I mean, we to get McLaurin Aya combination, for combined 7 is really good swap. And the Dalvin thing is nuts because we had talked about how we didn't, at least Peter and I were saying earlier in the week, we don't really want to play Dalvin because the way we want to structure our teams, but we also know that in a vacuum, if Dalvin's 5%, that's just stupid. And then he comes in at 1 to 2. I had him in the 7.7, 7.3 max. He was 1.4%. So I think that's 3 teams out of 150 there, maybe 2. Like that's nuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny looking at your and Wiggins team in the queue. You're in 4th, Wiggins is in 7th, and it's just like 2 different ways to arrive at a winning lineup because he has no plays under 10%.
Yeah.
And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 plays under that. And he has very little correlation in his, but just did an awesome job identifying a lot of great plays there and was able to jam in Henry, Kelsey, and Adams.
Just Jalen Hurts at 3% was enough for his lineup to be unique, at least probably with thought process. Get in like all the guys from there, Henry, Kelsey, Adams, Robbie Anderson, and just see what else fits, right? With all these like kind of mega punts from there, like literally Hanson, Barrios, and Washington to make and Cowboys D to make this team work. But man, if you hit on those guys that are expensive and then you get this quarterback that gives you 98 rushing yards, you might even get the bonus out of this guy. That's wild.
I can't believe he was 3% with the studs that were in play this week and the rushing upside. I think the matchup was bad. There's no two ways about it. It was our number 1 DL O-line mismatch at ETR. Brandon Thorne does a great job with that stuff, and we've seen it come to fruition. But just with his rushing upside and the way the slate was, I'm pretty surprised. One question for you guys. Do you think people are, especially in our contest, utilizing late swap a lot more than before? Because I think that helps explain some of the ownerships, but even in MME, Henry was not that high. I think Dink said in a lot of the regular MME stuff, not the Millie Maker, but not 3 max stuff, he was actually in the teens.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that late swap is like directly proportional to the contest buy-in level.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't you think? Like, the higher you go up, the more percentage of late swapping is happening because we like when you saw how low Derrick Henry was in ours relative to what we thought, what that immediately screamed to us, and we already knew what Dalvin was incredibly low on. So that was like, all right, Devontae Adams is coming in at 65%, 60%.
Yeah.
So then when he comes in at 33%, that's like 30% late swap movement on him there in this contest. And I would say that's pretty unique amount of late swap. I would bet even in the SPY, it was like a 10th of that. Oh my God. This Washington
D touchdown again.
Oh my God.
So we were literally between Washington D and San Francisco defense.
We were just flipping a coin.
Indy D is about to get a touchdown too. And I mean, do we even want to do the math on this?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm a fucking masochist. Let's just roll around in this.
While you're doing that, like I think the biggest thing in terms of like the late swap was like I think there's some people that it's not that they didn't want to play the KC stack, but just like looking at it, like being in the first game and we have all these good plays later, and then we see guys like Keenan Allen get inflated to 22%, and Tyreek's at 12, Mahomes is at 11. You know what I mean? So I think that I don't know. I'm a little bit in a pretzel in some ways, right? Because I think that like normally we want to give ourselves all this equity late, but then like some of these first game players end up being super low. So I don't know. Maybe that was a price thing. But Keenan Allen at 22% was much higher than I thought.
We'd literally be in 10th place right now with the Washington D instead of the 49ers. And that doesn't even include our quarterback getting benched, our wide receiver getting benched because of a blowout. Devonte Adams, like I'm calling DraftKings. I think something is like wrong with their live scoring. I keep refreshing it, and his number has just been stuck on 18.9. I assume it's something with the Elias Stats Bureau. So if someone can kind of figure out what is going on there, that would be nice.
Yeah, that's painful. We were really torn on Washington San Fran D, but the Chase Young thing like kind of wants to play Washington, but I actually had San Fran D projected a little bit more the home side of this, and I thought they might have to throw a ton without Gibson in there, and that would create a lot of opportunities. And we thought they'd be lower owned in addition to like some slightly higher projection. So process wise, it is what it is, but the result definitely sucks.
Ridley 12%. I guess he ended up being the guy of like those higher end guys that you could pivot to. That was going to be, I mean, he's half the ownership basically of Keenan. So I thought they'd be pretty close.
Yeah, that's the thing too about like the way we like to correlate these even secondary plays. You see it sometimes with like, okay, the Ayuk and McLaurin. So McLaurin, I believe, still isn't doing much. That kind of correlation misses, but then you see it with the Ridley Keenan, and you see the ceiling. It gives you the way the team's going back and forth, having a guy on each side of the game, racking up catches there, looking at Leone's lineup in the queue, and that correlation, works perfectly at a pretty decent ownership as well.
Yeah, I mean, our Hamler Mike Davis plays were so mad, and then because Hamler scores a long touchdown, so it's definitely one of those things where when it doesn't work, it's frustrating, but once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that's why I do that. Other thing that I found interesting the last 2 weeks, last week I was guilty of saying that we were dead when Waller went off early, and while we did end up dead, the teams that won our stuff did not have Waller. And then this week, you could have survived Henry too. I mean, you obviously wish you had Henry. It was an uphill battle, but it's not like you absolutely had to have Henry. I'm even looking at the top of this queue. I'm in third. The guy in first doesn't have Henry. So I don't know. I don't know if I have like a broader point about that, but I think it just shows you if you have like low owned outs, it's a big deal. And we saw this last week. The teams that won without Waller had some guys that were low owned and hit ceilings, and they were able to survive duds. They're able to survive not being perfect. And that's sort of our goal, is to win without being perfect.
Yeah. And another big thing, like in my personal lineups and in a lot of our other lineups, we played a ton of DeAndre Washington. I think we all thought he was a really solid play. Maybe didn't have a massive ceiling, but at $4,000 was definitely worth consideration. Even just avoiding that landmine in one lineup here ended up being huge. And it just goes to show too, just pivoting. Even if you miss the good chalk in Henry or Montgomery, but you avoid the bad chalk, you can survive that, because how many Montgomery and Henry teams also had DeAndre Washington with that pairing?
Right.
Dude, DeAndre
Yeah,
Washington
that's a really good point.
was 12% in the milli, but in like the 4-4-4-4, 37%. So like like Fantasy Labs has some really awesome like ownership tracking type of tools that you can look at some of these different contests. So like one of the best GPP grades, so more high owned at the higher stakes. Like, man, DeAndre Washington was just piled on by the sharps, and then just people in the Millionaire Maker just like, nah, I don't want that 4K running back who's going to touch the ball 17 times. What did he end up with touches? Keenan Allen, similar, like very low at low stakes, very high at high stakes.
Yeah, DeAndre definitely ran kind of bad. Kind of like Gaskin did last week. I know we're saying it 2 times in a row, but it's true. Ooh, Matt Ryan just threw a horrendous pick. I'm pulling it up now.
13 rush attempts, 4 targets. We take that at 4K every time.
Yeah, and they didn't run a whole ton the game either. Of the running back rush attempts, he had 13 of the non-quarterback one, because we'll count Bowden in there. He had 13 to 17 carries of the non-Tua rush attempts, and then 4 targets was great. That's what you hoped for. I believe he had some red zone work. They got behind early enough that Tua ends up throwing the ball 48 times in this game, and they only run the ball 24 times. 6 of those are Tua. So very inefficient game for him, but I still think it was a good play. But yeah, as Pete said, though, people play so much chalk together, and our stuff where he got steamed, it was a really big deal to not have DeAndre Washington on our 1,500 team, which gave us a good chance. And unfortunately, we were the wrong D away from a pretty good finish here. And who knows if, the Jets could actually kick some field goals or score in the red zone. And that game gets pumped a little bit more. Maybe we get another Russ drive, which is enough to like really put things over the top.
Leone, because I'm feeling very masochistic today, do you want to I told you so about Will Dissly over by Jacob Hollister love?
No, I liked Hollister more than Disley. I just thought if you didn't have the 200, it was close to a coin flip. And
Yeah.
the one thing I've been having a tough time with lately is I'm normally the volume over efficiency guy, but some of the modeling I've done for our ETR projection system has sort of said like on a per game basis that efficiency does matter. And it feels like a total fluke, but if you look at it, Jacob Hollister is less than 6 yards per attempt, 2 years in less than 6 yards per target, 2 years in a row with Russell Wilson, which just seems mind blowing with the most efficient quarterback, almost one of the most efficient quarterbacks ever. And then Disley, on the other hand, has caught over 80% of his targets 2 years in a row. His touchdown rate's been historically higher, so it's just a weird kind of like I said, I would have taken Hollister if I had the room, but I thought it was more of a coin flip. And I don't really know how to weigh that efficiency stuff. It's been a hot topic too with the Justin Jefferson thing in Dynasty and trying to rate him, because I'm like, holy shit, this catch rate, this yards per catch is like unreal. But then some other people are kind of correctly pointing out like, well, that's going to regress and we don't care about the efficiency as much. So it's tough to find where it matters. But as we saw with AJ Brown, there are some guys, that hold that. And as the sample size racks up, the more we sort of believe in it.
Joe, who did you end up heavy on in some of your individual lineups?
Yeah, I mean, I ended up on probably too much of that Minnesota and Tampa Bay game. I had 5 lineups on FanDuel. I think that was 3 of them, but I also had a mini stack and one of the other ones as well. So it was feeling pretty good about some of the ownership I got. Just didn't hit on some of the touchdowns in those games. And then obviously, I think only had 2 of 5 Derrick Henry, but also I think one of those teams had Chark on the other side of it. So that wasn't great. My one Montgomery Derrick Henry team actually happened to be a Noah Fant team. So that was a good time. We had a Noah Fant team in the Juke, didn't we?
We had a Noah Fant team on FanDuel.
That was what it was. Yeah.
The debate. So our debate on FanDuel, we were filling this out and we kind of liked our team, but it only left us enough for 3 defenses. And the only one we could possibly stomach was the Jags defense. And, Leone smartly was kind of like, do we want to go down to Komet or, something like here to go up? I was like, nah, I love this lineup as is. The big dog's going to fail. Jacksonville D can get there in some scenarios.
Noah, he's in the buy low. Get him in there.
What did you say about Fant in comparison to Anthony Davis there?
Oh yeah. I've been getting in my NBA references despite not being an NBA guy. I said the Titans go through tight ends like Larsa Pippen goes through NBA players. I got Noah Fant being the Anthony Davis of the NBA, dude. Should I become an NBA DFS thought leader, guys?
I mean, why not? Spread your wings, Peter.
It seems so like whenever I even think about NBA DFS and like a scramble at lock, I get panic attacks and I don't even get panic attacks.
I mean, it's an easy thing to tout because no one ever loses in NBA, so it's really not that big of a deal. You could probably just add that to your channel. Easy.
The hard thing with NBA though is you can't like just step in and take a quick gander at things and make a pretty good lineup like you probably could with NFL.
You're trying to tell me you can't play NBA casually? You can't just stroll in and be like, this looks okay. Anthony Davis, he looks like a good play. I don't know. It's the projections, right? If you have good projections, you win every single time. You never lose if you have good projections. That's what everyone tells me at least. So I don't know.
No one loses.
Yeah. So why of the 2 sports, why didn't I pick the sport to be obsessed with as the NBA, and then you get rewarded for knowing all the rotations and all that stuff, and then not be obsessed with the NFL? And you can just come in and look at 2 numbers, just look at projections and ownership on a Sunday, yada, yada, and your positive EV.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we just proved that you can't do that in NFL, right? Like, why would we not play Derrick Henry? Like, you just have to look at like the projection. That's it.
Oh man,
easy game.
I feel like the Derrick Henry hive, I feel like they haven't even been, or maybe we have just kind of gaslit the tilt space community in a way that there's no Derrick Henry teams here. Or it goes back to that thing. If you were eating the Derrick Henry chalk, you were probably eating some other bad chalk, and your lineups aren't doing that well either.
Yeah. But we would have played Derrick Henry, right, if we knew the ownership on at least one team.
Yeah, what did he come in at? In the 1500?
Yeah, we would have had
22%.
Yeah.
Because I think we probably we never articulated it. But we probably thought he was going to be 40%.
In the back of my head, I was like 35, like what I mean? Like in our stuff. He ended up being lower in our stuff than in low stakes, which was surprising, I guess.
I also too maybe like the dome's messing with me because it happens in the dome. I think more so than other contests where the chalk eyes get really inflated. But the other thing that might have been a tip that he might not be as owned as we expected. He was not in the blitz optimal. He was not in the ETR optimal. And if people are jamming optimals, he was close. He was in some nearly top optimals, but like the top raw optimal. He was not in those. And that seems to have been kind of, a little bit of a leading indicator.
Yeah.
Anytime you can dupe yourself with an optimal from a very popular website, you have to do it, right?
Also, I really, man, our Charger stack was really good too. It's too bad that was kind of dead in the water. And the second half kind of played slow, but both Eckler and Keenan Allen are having pretty good days.
Yeah, I'm looking.
9 catches for Eckler already. Over
so this is the
40 total yards.
If you take out the game Eckler got hurt, the last 4 games with Herbert, he now has 3 of them where he's caught at least 9 balls, which is nuts. And he's tough to project because you don't want to go too crazy on the target share, but that's kind of where when I was looking at Eckler as a play, I was like, he rates okay now, and I know there's a chance that he gets really high. And I ended up actually not playing him a lot though because I just went to Keenan. So but we had him in our Herbert double, I believe, right guys?
Yep.
Yeah.
Looking at it right now. We had Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen brought it back with Hurst and Ridley. I guess maybe just like taking care of tight end. We talked about this a little bit too, right? So we were like, should we bring it back with 2 guys? And we're like, well, we're basically just taking care of tight end, so we might as well add another guy to this game, which we really like. And if it shoots out, the team will be in pretty good shape, right? So like almost all of our salary was spent in this Atlanta and LA Chargers game, which I don't think was necessarily bad. It just hasn't really gotten there.
Yeah, and I mean, our problem with this lineup wasn't even, I think we identified a good game to attack. It was we did this mini correlation with Corey Davis and DJ Chark, and both those guys flop. And when you take it's the polar opposite of our Hamler Mike Davis. The correlation hits, you're off to the races, or it flops and your lineup is pretty much dead on arrival.
Well, Leone, you're going to be in the live final here pending some sort of craziness, right? So I guess 1 seat, right? So that's a little bit different in terms of strategy than if you had like 3 or 4. I think the max is 8. So one of the things that like we always talk about is if you do have multiple seats in these qualifiers, just really trying to limit the amount of overlap you have overall. But with 1 dart, like you're going to get kind of weird with this lineup, I would imagine, right?
Oh yeah, you guys know the way I play.
There's the way Leone's starting to become a chalk donkey.
I'm not landing on the chalk. I'm trying to see here. I'm like 30th in the $500 Millie Maker
with this lineup.
Yeah, I threw it in there because I was like, I don't think I really have anywhere else. But I don't know. Maybe if we got like a Hertz rushing tutty and some Keenan Ridley stuff, maybe they go to overtime.
Wait, did I just realize? So next week we could have Leone at this time sweating 2.5 mil.
Love it.
Wait, it's next week?
It's next week.
Isn't it the 20th?
Oh my God.
Yeah, next week. Big week.
There it is.
And also the Bills have a huge game tonight. And it hasn't even registered with me.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting that's tonight. We are going to end up on time because I do need to go enter this showdown slate.
Oh, I'm 100% playing this showdown slate. 100%.
Yeah, I'm regging right now. But I'm excited to sweat Leone in this context next year. I mean,
Pete, maybe we don't even come on. Maybe we just let Chris come on. Chris has got his 4 seats. Leone's got his seat. Maybe we just get these guys head to head. They can talk about who was going to play T.Y. Hilton and who was not going to play T.Y. Hilton, right?
Chris, let's split winnings 50-50.
4 seats versus your 1. Yeah.
Leone, What was the one thing Joe said? He's like, I don't want to talk about T.Y. Hilton, and then he brings up T.Y. Hilton.
This is how I literally get over things. I joke about them, and like if it tilts me, fine. If I joke about it enough times, I don't care as much anymore. So that's my.
We're
process.
not allowed to joke about it.
No, literally, that's exactly right. Yes, I'm allowed to joke about those things. You guys are. I would prefer if you would not.
I know there's some mega tilting season-long owners with Miles Sanders who probably benched him this week.
Oh.
Yeah,
and he was just came up short on a second touchdown. He had the 80-yard touchdown earlier. He's over 100 on the day.
Were they talking about how I think I heard this that New Orleans hasn't given up a 100-yard rusher all year?
They gave up 2. They gave up 2 today.
Yeah, literally. So I guess, Leone, if you were to flip the script and you did have like 4 seats, like, do you agree with like the overlap thing being like something that definitely limits your EV overall? Like maybe if there's just like this slam dunk value play, but one thing that happened in the live final last year was it was Patrick Laird week, Pete, and all these people just jamming in Patrick Laird because he basically had this bell cow role. And then we're sitting there looking at projections and ownership. Someone like Kenyon Drake, very similar projection at like a 10th of the ownership. Kenyon Drake goes out there, scores 3 touchdowns. Peter Gibbons wins the final. So like stuff like that. I think I would try and not just like go completely all in on these like slam dunk value plays, but I'm curious what Leone thinks about overlap if you had multiple seats.
I mean, it's definitely easier to diversify, but I still think you kind of want to, I mean, it's tough because it's such a unique opportunity, but I still feel like
we're on the min cash line for the game changer. We can
Wow.
salvage this day financially.
How did we get there?
Adams just hit the 100-yard bonus.
Oh. What is?
Sorry,
how many
I didn't
people
mean to
cash
interrupt
this?
you. I just got really excited. That's a $3,000 swing for our collective bankroll.
Good stuff. So you're saying you rather kind of go in on a core then? Maybe I'm wrong.
No, not going on a core, but I think you know, I did a podcast with Pat Crane, our Established Edge podcast on diversification. And I think you really want to find where your edge is. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're playing the same core across 4, but if you have something that you think gives you an advantage, whether it's a macro strategy or it's a specific player, I think it's okay to be kind of heavy on that and then diversify around, you know, where you think your edge is highest. But some slates that doesn't happen. And it's just kind of like, well, I'm going to run 4 stacks. I'm going to run 4 teams that are smart on, you know, cumulative ownership and diversify them, and just having 4 smartly correlated, smart in terms of leverage and ownership teams. You know, I think that does make sense. I mean, when you're really trying to win $2.5 million, it's tough. I've never been in that spot, to be perfectly honest.
Well, so I haven't been in this spot personally, but I have had a couple clients that have been in these type of finals with like the kind of similar field size. And one thing that I guess gets tricky is ownership in general, right? So a lot of times the chalk ends up going under owned anyways. So like these kind of like sneaky stacks, so you think they're going to be like 5 to 8%, end up being 12 to 15, and then the really like chalky stacks end up being unowned. So like last year, one thing that was really nice in the final with Chris was that everyone was avoiding this Kansas City stack because they were playing in the snow. So we got them at like sub 8%. I think Tyreek was like sub 5%. They scored right off the bat, ended up being decent. Pete's boy, Patrick Laird, ended up being one of our worst plays in that lineup. So, Pete, that was basically like you touting Laird to me over and over and over. No. Basically cost me like a share of what, $1 million last year. So let's try not to make that mistake this week.
I mean, I obviously remember that week vividly because there was multiple evolutions to the Patrick Laird. There was the hyping it week and he flopped. And then there was the flop lag week against the Eagles where he scored and he crushed. And then there was the swing week, the game where Davis and I went to New York where they played the Giants. And that was when he flopped there. They gave him like an awful carry at the goal line where he got a safety and all that shit. So yes, I don't want to relive that moment. But I do want to circle back real quick and just emphasize and plug that podcast that Mike did with Pat. If you guys aren't listening to Establish the Edge, very good. But I do think the diversification one was one of their best podcasts. And one thing that resonated with me was you guys were talking about for like season long drafts, these like 55-45 situations and how easy it is for us to fall in love with the 55 guys because we like them or they're our guys. And it got me thinking in DFS, I feel like it's easier, right? Because we just spin up a new lineup. we're like, oh, we want to get in this correlation. Let's build an extra lineup with that. But when you're doing those season-long teams, it's like, well, this feels like the one chance here. And it's harder to know, like, I'm going to do another draft in one day. I can just get my 45 play there. And you find yourself doubling down. So I feel like DFS this year has actually gotten me better at like understanding the the probabilistic nature of these plays and just being like, let me spread my exposure around.
Yeah. And the context we were talking about too is like, if you like zero running back was a pretty good strategy this year. And if you thought your edge was zero running back teams, kind of don't want to over invest in the exact same, late wide receiver play, which I think this was like a Justin Jefferson versus Jalen Reagor thing where Pat and me, we took Jalen Reagor all the time instead of Justin Jefferson. And it's like, well, even though we thought that was a good play, the better play, it's not like we liked him that much more than Jefferson. And that also wasn't what was giving us our massive edge. So it would have made more sense to diversify within that strategy.
And sometimes you make a highlight video for one specific rookie wide receiver and you start drafting him during every draft just so you can play a highlight video. And that wasn't a great example of diversification. I should have made a highlight video for every damn rookie in this class and we would have been in good shape.
That's the play. By the way, guys, we did just drop over that cash line again, so we're gonna be sweating I guess the next 8 minutes for our defense.
Seriously?
To hopefully get back over the cash line. It's rough.
Is the Packers game done?
It's like 4 minutes left. So yeah, I guess we still have some outs.
Yeah, so we'll need another Devontae Adams thing, or somehow the Niners D doing something, I guess. It was fun. The Niners D is like fine too, but God, if we had Washington, where would we even be? I mean, do we even? Oh my goodness.
Last time I had looked, it was a 19-point difference between the defenses, so that would get us up.
I think they gave up a touchdown since then. So let's say -3. So let's say 16-point difference.
Okay, so that would put us at like
fifth place.
Jesus.
And
this is
that's
why you don't do
literally-
that, man. Like, I'd rather just like not know.
That's
Holka, we do a show. We're doing it.
It's called the Tilt Space, Joe.
You would rather know. You would rather be like, oh, this coin flip defense decision just cost us 10 grand. You want to talk about that on the live stream? Think that makes good content, Mike?
Yeah,
I do think it makes good content. Yes.
we have people coming in that like to see us succeed. We have people coming in who want to dunk on us for not playing Derrick Henry that get joy in watching us fail. So I feel like we can toss them some scraps.
What do you think the percentage is of people that actually want to see us succeed, Pete? It's got to be very low.
Do you want like my just joke answer?
No, I actually want to know what you think. The amount of percent of people that come in here just to troll us, or versus the amount of people that actually want us to succeed. And the people that we'll add to that, the people that are upset that we turned our bankroll into 15K into like 65 and are just giving a large chunk of it back.
Say just in general, I would say like 75% of the chat and viewers would like to see us succeed.
Okay.
That would be my guess. And there's like maybe another 15% that enjoy the schadenfreude of us losing and tilting on stream because it's more entertaining. In the same way people like the Gilcast or my Bankroll challenge reviews when I lose, that's just more entertaining in general. And then maybe there's like 5 to 10% of people who just actually want us to lose for whatever reason, and that they're the things they're dealing with in their own lives.
All the people that played Derrick Henry this week are the people that don't want us to win.
Yeah.
There were some angry people. There were some people in chat before we even went live that were already giving it to us on Derrick Henry.
Joe, they want you to do a poll. You got to tell them your polls are broken?
No, the polls don't work on the Line Movement channel. I've been told that I can only do those on my own channel. So, yeah, should we do the 1 in the chat thing? Let's put a 1 in the chat if you want us to succeed. Put a 2 in the chat if you just prefer we tilt like crazy and always lose. I'm not joking. We got a couple ones already.
Wow,
he's just trying to like get some sort of vote going in the chat right now, so we could just avoid people chirping his upper lip again.
Oh no,
It's super weird. I don't know if there's a mistake, but I'm looking at us in the standings. Does it say this for you guys? It says our score is 151.94 and the people ahead of us have 148.
Dude, I feel like the DK stuff has been tweaking because I was looking at our juke lineups and like the Miles Gaskin score, or Miles Gaskin, DeAndre Washington says he has like 0.8 points.
I see the people ahead of us with more points. I see like 152.
Okay, I refreshed. They must not have like visually given someone their points, even though
good amount of ones in the chat right now, Pete. How does that make you feel?
That's I think yeah, a decent amount of ones here. I will say this will be I mean, we are literally okay. So 152.66. We're 151.94. So that's what like 0.7 points off of the min cash line. That's a $3,000 swing. A $3,000 swing. Also, can these sites fix like when Washington DST scores a touchdown? And I know people have talked about this before, but I'm just going to do it again. The 49ers defense should not take a hit for points allowed. They did not allow those points.
Can I tell you something, Pete?
Yeah.
They don't. It's on the extra point, but they count the extra point.
But no, it's how many points allowed. 7 to 13 points allowed.
Yeah, Washington has 23 points.
The one you're telling me it's just the extra point.
Yes. On a DST touchdown.
Can't deal with this.
I feel like you don't believe me.
No, I believe you. The way the live scoring worked, like in the thing, it dropped it immediately, but they must have like been making an assumption about the extra point or whatever.
Yeah. Sure. Make it. We'll just let that slide. Yeah. I bet they made an assumption on the extra point. This is like when you're on tech support and you're just being an idiot, and they're like,
let's end the show. I want to go make showdown lineups.
Alvin Kamara 22, just churning at 0.2% ownership.
Everyone said Alvin Kamara was dead, man.
Mm-hmm. This
I didn't
week,
play him.
man. Jonathan Taylor. Good for you guys for at least bringing that one up. I know Leone had him. I don't know. I should have gone back to the well.
No, Leone brought him up for our lineups. He was talking about because we were looking at Ayuk, and then we were wrestling with the idea of getting the correlation with McLaurin or getting Jonathan Taylor.
Oh! Go!
What is it, Leone?
Pick. Sorry, pick. Haskins on 3rd and 10 throws a pick.
Oh, baby, come on.
I'm trying to watch the score
I'm
update.
worried the ball hit the ground, but they don't seem concerned at all.
People are yelling in the chat that not as loud as Leone just yelled in my ear, but the people are typing in all caps, and I think that means they're yelling.
I'm waiting for the game center to update here.
Yo, some encouraging DeAndre Swift usage today. I'm watching him out there after he was dealing with the concussion stuff and whatnot.
How many touches does he have?
I saw him score goal line touchdown. He just ran a route by the goal line. Let's see.
Someone just said it hit the ground, guys.
Are you serious?
Can't tell if
the first guy dropped it, and then the second guy, I don't know. He's got 7 carries, but the team only has 15 carries. And then he's got 5 targets. So I guess it's not that great, but it's still good to see him back and like in there.
Yeah, I still don't understand that stuff about. It's kind of like the Noah Fant thing today, right? He left the game mid-game with an illness.
Incomplete pass. They just changed it to an incomplete pass.
Great. So we are still. Oh my God. We are literally. We are 0.36 points away from $3,000. 0.36.
Well,
oh
the
my
old
goodness.
coin flip defense. Just a quick 10K difference.
It is Green Bay. Well, Green Bay's not throwing anymore, right?
They might. No, probably not because Detroit's taking to. But I was wondering if Detroit scores. Which, by the way, I guess Stafford got hurt because Chase Daniel's been in this game. He's actually played pretty well. Wow, that's a tough bubble, huh?
So what happened? They ruled it an interception and then they overturned it.
Yeah. But the guy should have caught it. If you want to feel the max pain, it should have been an interception.
Dave wants to know how the super contest is going. Did anyone even submit our picks?
Pete, we haven't submitted picks in like 5 weeks.
Does Corbs put in something for us?
For Chris, he does, not for us.
So we just he doesn't even just like mash buttons, like we're taking zeros?
Correct. For the last 6 weeks, where you been?
Why wouldn't he just mash buttons? Corbs.
If he is, I don't know. I guess he's done with us, man.
I'll throw Corbs through the glass if he's not mashing buttons for us. What are we paying our proxy for?
Well, technically, we're not paying our proxy unless we win. So he was done with us getting our picks in late and having to drive down to the sports book to get our picks in. He knew he knows who his real horse is, and it's not us.
It was a great content idea.
Man, the fact that like none of us even looked to be like, oh yeah, like this is a nice flat payout structure. Not even flat, just like maybe it pays out the top 10, top 5, but man, you gotta be kidding me. But the whole reason we did it was out of laziness, wasn't it? Because we didn't all want to have to do our own picks, because the super contest, that's not the 5K entry, that's like the 1K entry. We just didn't think that would be like a good use of like doing content. Just doing it together made more sense.
We didn't want to do 3. Yeah, we wanted something collective, and also just, I mean, it's tough. It sounds easy to give 5 picks, but you get busy during the season. Okay, I got an OG's Hurts from Dink. I don't know what happened.
Hurts fumble.
My God. Damn it, Jalen.
Leone, I don't know if you're allowed to tilt right now, my friend.
I'm just a football fan right now, cheering for Jalen Hurts.
Oh man.
Chug a Coors Light.
Is this Is this Wiggins' first seat? Can't be, right? He's got a couple.
I think this is his first.
Oh, nice.
I'm not positive. I don't think he's been playing a lot of the Qs.
Do you think these ones are like pretty high equity in comparison to some of the other ones? Like these mega Qs were like whatever, like the top 16. So what is it, like 6% of the field cashes instead of just like, oh, wait. I just saw Monte Adams move. Hang on.
We dropped down, whatever happened.
Yeah, never mind. It must have been some sort of correction on yardage. Do you like these ones better though, these mega Qs versus like the ones where it's winner take all, obviously?
I don't play very many Qs. It was just kind of the Thunderdome sucked this week and I wanted to take a shot. And I don't know if they're better. I guess it's nicer that you don't have to. There's some leeway where if someone just has an absurd lineup, you can still win, which is nice. But as far as EV goes, isn't it I don't know if it's actually better. I think there's more people and they give out more spots. You know what I mean?
Well, the best ones are definitely the ones that are like 12 people, right? Like the showdown ones or whatever it is. Like I guess they have them for like almost every slate, right? So where you don't have to beat 12 people. Like if you're really all in on Qs, like, and you've got like a massive bankroll, your best chance of actually getting seats is probably those ones.
Leone, KK in the chat wants you to talk about playing an uncorrelated Hurts.
Well, the idea of playing Hurts was to maximize his rushing potential at a really low price tag. And then I'm able to do kind of some more expensive mini correlations. I had Rojo, Irv Smith, Keenan Allen, Calvin Ridley, Metcalf, Perriman. So I was pretty correlated in my lineup overall. So I talked about Hurts on Established a Million. And I don't know. I just didn't feel like I needed to force a stack with him. I thought the upside was in rushing, which is kind of what we got.
And I'm sure if there was, like, I've been the past couple weeks rolling out Taysom Hill with Michael Thomas just because we've seen such a large target share for Michael Thomas and that pairing has worked. But with Jalen Hurts, it was hard to identify like no one on the Eagles were projecting well. Like Goddard was just expensive enough that you didn't feel comfortable just like tossing him in as an easy correlation. It didn't see like I don't know where the opportunity cost was in not stacking him. You were always trying to just get like 20 points driven by his rushing.
Yeah, I mean, if I was gonna do it, it would have been maybe taking a shot on Rager or Goddard. Those were the only two that I even remotely considered, but I honestly didn't consider it that much. I mean, I didn't even really play guys at those price point. I really wanted to get in some of these expensive guys that I liked that I thought were leverage off the more expensive chalk pieces, which kind of in a funny way, Adams and Henry both get there, and I'm still okay, which is kind of weird, but I'm glad it worked out that way. Some onside kicks coming in both games, I believe.
What an awful day. I like the days where we're just buried early and then we can just come on here and like goof off or whatever. Like having to sweat, a 0.64 swing on the bubble is just so gross. I am happy for you in the Q, Leone, and I'm excited to sweat.
Oh my God. I
What
think the
happened?
Saints got the onside kick.
Really?
I don't know. Oh, Eagles are saying they got it. Like it's anyone's ball. They're digging through the pile right now. Meanwhile, the Lions committed a penalty on there. It looks like there's a flag on both onside kicks. So
Do the Lions have enough timeouts to force the Packers to get get a first down?
I think there's 142 left. I think maybe technically, and they've only got one timeout. So I think maybe Green Bay can't just kneel on it. So there's a chance that they try and get a first down on third down, but it seems pretty unlikely. Our best chance is still that something happens in this
Let's talk about
Washington game.
real quick our bankroll and our contest selection. It seems like we are getting close to scaling back how much we have in play. I felt pretty confident in our process and wanting to continue to give ourselves chances playing, the $1,500 single entry plus the juke that had us in for what, 3,200 collectively plus a couple milli maker entries.
Yeah.
Are you guys, I mean, I still feel comfortable of where we're at and where our overall profit is to keep. I definitely want to like maximize. We have two really good main slates left with week 15 and 16. I mean, are you guys still there, or do you think it's being fiscally irresponsible to not scale back?
Well, I don't know if it's irresponsible,
ahead,
but I disagree with what you said about like these main slate. Like the playoff weeks are like exactly the type of slates that we should leave some firepower for. You know what I mean? Like people are just not late swapping on those slates. They're big enough, but they're not huge to where you can still really leverage the field the exact way that we normally do. The sweat goes like multiple days. So like, it's not that I think we should scale back. I just think that like, I'm not just firing out all this profit just through week 17 and then we don't know what to do for the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Say too, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm excited to play those playoff slates too, but I feel like the way our style of play is basically saying like, we're going to play contrarian plays that are actually project similarly to the chalk. But on a main slate, you have so many options for doing that where we can play plays that project just as well. And that really shrinks in the playoffs.
But we can galaxy brain late swap.
We can galaxy brain for sure.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Like it's probably our style of play is probably better for a larger slate. Is what it comes down to, I think. So it'll be interesting to see how we adjust to a smaller slate, because you have to be a little bit more careful with. I mean, you can play if you played like every slate pretty contrarian, there's going to be a few each year that you just hit on when the chalk fails. But now you do that in the playoff slate, you have to be, I think, more cognizant of mixing and matching who you're fading, because you can't just fade all the chalk. Looks like the Eagles are going to take this all the way down and get the W. Oh, man.
So I assume Hurts, I mean, he's earned more starts, right? Like they can't go back to wins.
They can't. I'm watching this punt. This is how sick I am. We need a punt return touchdown to suck out
We're kicking to the Niners right now.
Ayuk. Come on, Ayuk. Oh, no chance.
You imagine?
You should have trolled me on that one, dude. You should be like,
Ayuk!
and
He's got a lane. He's got a lane.
I'm like pouring my whiskey on my head. The greatest troll ever.
Oh, missed opportunity for sure. I don't think I could do that to you though. But back to the bankroll. So at our peak, we were up 50. We were up like 50K at our peak, and now we're up like 25K. So we've salted away like half of that.
Well, that's not as bad as I thought.
It's not as bad as I thought, but it looks.
Remember?
I don't know. I thought it's actually worse than I thought.
That was so stupid.
Oh man.
But I feel like we should. I don't know. It just sucks because like a week like this, for example, we're so close to having like cash for like 10K, for example, and that would have been like, that's a pretty big deal. Like percentage wise.
That's the thing. We've on some of our wins, we've obviously run very good. Today was one of those days where, man, we run bad. To not get a fourth quarter from our premium stack, Russ to Metcalf. I mean, when Metcalf was doing whatever he wanted in that game.
Hey man, that's what you get for playing against the Jets, man. You can't play against these guys. It's just going to be like blowout potential. Didn't you hear the chat telling us about blowout potential the whole week, Pete?
Oh, they've told me. They've told me good and well.
Where were they when the Chiefs double stack hit?
Oh, they're gone. They're gone. They like went back into like underneath their rock, and they came out for 30% Derrick Henry week that we didn't have.
Where were they when Braxton Barrios, aka the Engine, 2.75x today? I mean, where were they then?
Oh man. I think we did learn one thing, or at least we've learned this a couple of times. We don't like playing one lineup because we just end up like not getting all the plays that cumulatively we like. But also like anything more than 4. Like we played 5 today. We were scrambling a little bit because the line movement show went 10 minutes late. Thanks, producer Jordan. Thanks, Dieter. But I think outside of that, like I think we're in a pretty good groove with making 4 teams, like playing the juke plus like the game changer, the 1500, right?
Yeah, I will say an interesting note about that. If we would have made one lineup today, I'm pretty sure it would have been the Herbert stack because that was the one we settled on. We initially had pegged that one to be in the single entry 1500. We built our lineups and then we're looking at them and we're like, I think we actually like this Russell Wilson one more and tossed that one in. So if we would have built one lineup today, I'm pretty sure it would have been the Herbert in here that had DeAndre Washington on it.
Yeah. What I'm torn about is I like building the multiple lineups, but I also feel like we're at a certain bankroll where it makes sense for us to take a shot at like 50K instead of 20K. And I don't know how many weeks we can keep maxing the juke and play a 1500 if we keep. I mean, I guess we could do it the rest of the season and just say if we totally brick out, what's 3,200 times how many weeks are left?
Well, what are we at right now? Like
my thing is, yeah. Like one thing I would say, Joe, and I know you hate the contests and stuff, but I just feel like the way we build lineups, we give ourselves so much first place equity that like, what if we just play the what's the 153 max, the power sweep, for 450 with those lineups, because I just feel like we're always giving ourselves a chance to win with the kind of lineups we build.
We could just do the juke plus that. I just hate the power sweep, man. It's like the worst structure of like any of these contests. I get what you're saying for sure. And it doesn't it gives us more upside for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the question is that structure bad for the way we play?
Maybe not.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe
yeah.
not. I'm with you. That's kind of my argument in favor of the smaller slates sometimes, because sometimes they are very, very top heavy, but like the way we play, if you have 1 or 2 of those banks, it doesn't even matter.
But that, I just feel like that might be a good compromise, right? Because we scale back our buy-in for a 3 max. We're still playing aggressive and we're giving ourselves a chance at what is first place in the sweep, 100,000 or something.
100K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that might just be a good compromise. Then we're in for, a little less than 2,000 on a slate instead of 3,200, and we still give ourselves a chance at some nice prizes.
Yeah, just let me know when we're going to scale back so I can scale up everything else. Because if we're scaling back, that just means we're going to be on the stone nuts. It's just how it works.
If we suck And let's say if we brick out at 2K left, let's say, and there's like about 5 good weeks left, that's 10K. You know, we have a 15K profit on the year. We 2x our bankroll even if we brick out, and like I feel pretty comfortable with that. So I kind of like that strategy. Maybe it's like a weak wimpy strategy because I don't think we're minus EV. So in a way, I kind of want to keep firing what we're doing, but I think it'd be pretty cool to just say, hey, we double up the way that we played, and
Yeah.
that's like a worst case scenario. I mean, if we had a cash or something, we could always change it 1 week.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I would say the lineups, and we didn't really go over them that much because they weren't doing well, but like all of our lineups in the juke, I mean, would have been perfectly fine even in the power sweep. I mean, rolling out a Tom Brady, double stack, or we ended up singling it at sub 6% ownership, rolling out a Jalen Hurts team with an AJ Brown mini at 4.6%. A Corey Davis, DJ Chark, sub 10%. Like just the type of plays we're making and how little chalk we're eating. I think we're always giving ourselves a chance at first place.
I'm by that.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think in some ways the power sweep is different for correlation is the last thing I'll say on it, right? If it's a larger contest, correct? Than we're playing right now. So we're doing a lot of game stacking right now. So probably we'd have to get a little bit different with just that roster construction wrinkle of it, more skinny stacks.
That's a good point. Like we wouldn't roll out the LA Chargers Atlanta team where we had 5 guys from that game. We wouldn't do it in that power sweep. But like if you look at the Hurts and the Brady lineups, we would definitely roll those out like a skinny stack or the Hurts one, which is completely unstacked.
Mm-hmm.
So
the other thing,
yeah, go ahead.
I had sort of mentioned this when we were talking through some stuff too. What do you think about mixing in a FanDuel team more frequently? I like the way that FanDuel is a natural hedge because you can build less correlated lineups and it makes more sense there because it's more about scoring touchdowns than it is, a game going nutty with bonuses and point per reception type stuff. So I kind of like playing there. And not that we shouldn't correlate at all on FanDuel, but I don't know, I kind of like the idea of mixing in FanDuel like a little bit more frequently if we can find the right contest.
Yeah. I enjoy that. My only struggle right now with FanDuel, and I've been playing like, Roto Grinders had the single entry series and we got our Swolecast listener league over there. So I normally build 2 to 3 lineups, but it's like we get off our show at noon. You and I, or the 3 of us talk until like 12:30 today. It was till like 12:45. And then I go to FanDuel to make my 3 lineups there. And all through the week, I'm staring at DK pricing almost exclusively, like everything. And so, yeah, I know the plays. I have a feel for it, but like, I'm probably not devoting enough time to FanDuel. And I know on Establish the Million, you guys pull up both and do a good job of that. But like, just for me personally, I'm probably not devoting enough time to FanDuel research to have a lot in play over there.
Like a slate like today, though, like pricing was actually kind of tight on FanDuel, and that rarely happens. So sometimes it's like you get over to FanDuel and like you just build whatever you want. So it's quicker to build those teams. If we did that last, this was kind of a weird one with that. I'm with you. Like I'm focusing on DraftKings for the most part too. So maybe Leone, you're more kind of down the middle in some ways, right, Leone? Because you're doing projections and whatnot.
I'm more on DraftKings too, but because I do the show, we prep our customers for FanDuel too. I'm a little bit more in tune. So I generally, I struggle with the macro stuff on FanDuel, but that's kind of why I want to play it a little bit more is to get more of a handle on the macro strategy there because it's definitely different without the bonuses and full PPR. Like the correlation changes. So I don't know. I was just thinking through, I don't know, just kind of the way we play it. It might be interesting to build a little bit differently over there. And but we can play it by ear.
Yeah, and I would say that too would also make a lot of sense. If for some reason we did like drop off like the 3 max and we just wanted to play one team on DraftKings and one team on FanDuel, just to where we felt like we were giving it proper attention. I should probably update my spreadsheet too and devote a little bit more time to FanDuel. All right, guys, should we wrap this up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Joe, how many likes do we have on the video right now?
Currently about 44 likes, which is, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's pretty embarrassing for the amount of people that have come through here.
How many, and what would you estimate our peak concurrence?
I mean, I can tell you the exact peak peak.
Yeah.
It was 345.
Okay, so you're telling me over 300 people came through and didn't like this video is kind of what you're telling me?
Yeah, and I would imagine just by the numbers that probably at least half of them are also not subscribed, which is also kind of a little bit upsetting.
It's interesting. It's what are you guys even doing? You're just trying to dine and dash the tilt space? One time in high school, I went to a trivia night with friends and I had to leave early and I forgot to pay my bill. And I gave my buddy the money the next day. The rest of high school, they called me Dine and Dash Pete. The rest of high school from one time. Guess what I'm calling all of you Tilt Space viewers? Dine and Dash viewers. That's what you are. Do you want that nickname to haunt you for the rest of your life? Then put a ring on it and subscribe to the channel. Put a ring on it and give us a like. We got the iTunes link down below if for some reason you would like to hear us tilt in audio form. We also have shows that go up throughout the week. The betting show early in the week with LaMarca. We got the Thursday night game where we walk through the main slate. Line movements pumping out MMA content. I got in the MMA streets again this weekend. It was fun. Had a much better MMA slate than I did NFL slate. So yes, please get caught up on all your line movement subs. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you. Even those of you who gave us twos. Even those of you who like seeing us fail, we still love you. For Joe Holka, for Michael Leone, I'm Peter Overzet. This has been the Tilt Space. We'll see you next week.